Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We're going to get started. First of all, thanks for taking time out of your day to come in and listen a little bit. One thing about this class is that it is totally open. So questions, discussion, opinions, except Mike, we don't let he can't have an opinion. So yeah. So but all of those things are important. And hopefully you'll all end up getting something out of this. It ends up being kind of a variety of topics that we work with as we go through the process. But to start off with, I want to talk to you about the dreaded lawsuits that we're basically all aware of and kind of their latest things. There's actually a few different lawsuits. If you think I'm speaking of the photographer lawsuit, no, because I'm barred from speaking about that yet. So that's ongoing, and we'll be doing some stuff with that to get photographers signed up and approved to upload photos into the system. So just have an awareness of that. If you haven't seen that, there's emails and posts and things that have gone out, and the forms for a photographer. I'm sending those out to anybody who sends in a name and a email of a photographer they would like to have on the approved list. And I'd send out the agreement with them or to them. And if they agree and sign off on that, then they're on the list. And we only do it one time per photographer. It's an agreement with the brokerage of how the photos can be used. Okay, so the lawsuit on that is just ongoing, and the only thing I can say is that the executive board at DMAR is doing everything possible to protect not only the brokerages but the agents from this predator, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, a couple of other lawsuits. Let's see. Well, there's one that is in the Supreme Court. They haven't done the opinion yet, as far as I know. Is the one, the slip and fall incident? Is everybody aware of that one?
No.
Ira Realty had a listing, and it was winter, and the everything wasn't cleared off, you know, that kind of thing. The owner didn't live in that property, lived about maybe 2 miles away or something like that in a different property. A person called and said, hey, I've got a buyer, want to go show the property. It was approved to show it. I believe it was approved as like vacant, go show. And so anyway, agent goes over there, they get out of the car, they walk up, buyer slips, fall, hurts themselves. Okay, so they sue Ira Realty and the agent.
Of course they do.
You know, they sued them because they were complicit in allowing a showing on, you know, without making sure the property was prepared for a showing. It has gone to the Iowa Supreme Court. It's online if you want to listen to it. It is quite infuriating. I think we both watched it and then called each other and yelled about stuff. But there's the initial ruling by the lower court was that Iowa Realty did have liability because they presented the home to be shown. So that's up in there. The Iowa Association wrote what's called an amicus brief that was submitted along with that. Even though that is not part of it, it is an informational brief for the judges to be able to read through and see, because there's so much about that is highly impactful to our business, you know, and so that's huge. Yes. Well, I don't think there's really a big difference. The only thing, and I will tell all of you, that if you in fact are the person that goes out there and shovels the driveway because you're such a nice realtor for your buyers or sellers, if you're the one doing that, you're the one that's going to get sued. So just be aware of that. That's how the world works right now.
So is that what the situation
No,
is?
no, this was not. This was not actually cleared of snow and stuff yet. The seller had not gotten over there.
But it wasn't the agent's responsibility. They're just,
Right,
they're just doing because the agent and Iowa Realty have deeper pockets than the seller.
probably. So anyway, that's it's been argued before the Iowa Supreme Court, and it is being read through and all that kind of stuff. And if you ever want to find out just how much our jurists on the Supreme Court know about real estate, listen to that. It is absolutely amazing. The Chief Justice of the Iowa Supreme Court said, well, they do get paid, right? Not for maintaining the damn sidewalk,
Right.
But yeah, that was the comment. It was pretty amazing. It was like, oh my goodness.
Was the seller sued in the lawsuit as well?
In this one, no. I don't think they got the.
Wow.
I think they were.
Was the seller part of it?
I think they were part of it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they were focusing on the liability, of allowing shovels to be done. So
And the Supreme Court was also talking about commissions, amounts of commissions.
yeah, the Supreme Court actually started talking about an amount of commission.
And Joe's raising his hand.
Oh, yes, Joe.
She's looking for the unmute right now. We
She's
can see it on her
almost,
face.
she's almost gonna talk. There it is.
No, I was just going to add, NAR is looking at this very closely too, because it could have some real dire consequences for all of real estate. So this is important. And Lance, you're absolutely right. The Supreme Court that's looking at it, I think they need to be educated on how real estate really happens and what we do.
Right,
That's it.
right. Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
The showing agent gets sued also,
No. Showing agent didn't get sued.
and doesn't the buyer have any liability to sue that it's not safe?
Well, that was part of our heated discussion, was that the buyer's agent is the one who pulled up and saw the condition and got out to show the house. And I think there was even more responsibility on the buyer's agent, if you're looking for responsibility, that they actually, tried to show the property and didn't make sure everything was right. So anyway, so that'll be interesting to see. As Joe said, it's way bigger, which is why the Iowa Association did that amicus brief, and Gabe did a wonderful job of putting that together. I don't know if he was assistant in some of that, but just talking about what we actually do. So there's that. Now, the two lawsuits that I really want to talk about that's part of this presentation is that there is a lawsuit in Missouri and a lawsuit in Illinois. And it is a suit brought by sellers that says, but I didn't get to negotiate the money paid to the buyer's agent. I didn't get to negotiate that. And so that has expanded from that person believing they maybe didn't get the right information. It started going and we're like, oh, it's going to be ugly and everything. And then our amazing, wonderful Department of Justice decided that they should enter into a private lawsuit that is a lawsuit individually against NAR and the four largest franchisees in the country. And so they decided that they would enter that and they would back the person who is suing. So that's your, let your vote count on that. You don't elect the Department of Justice, but there should be something that is said about that. Explain. Their contention is that, one, we are forcing people to pay buyer's fees without any knowledge, without any understanding what it's about, how it works. And so they're doing that. With the Department of Justice coming on, the one that's in Missouri, then the judge looks at that and goes, shoot, Department of Justice on there, we should make this class action. So it was 3 weeks now, maybe a month, it was certified class action. Well, if anybody's got one of the postcards in the mail, you know how class action goes. They send you a postcard and say, hey, you might get money. And you go, yeah, well, sure, I'll sign on. So in my mind, the happiest seller out there gets a card and says you might get money is likely to sign on and say, yeah, give me my money. That's from a seller who's thrilled to death with everything that happened to him, but because of class action, they will step in the arena and sign on as a participant because, hey, they might get, $100 or something. And we all know class action is not for any of the people in the class. It is only for the attorneys that are out there making a large percentage of any money that they get out of the transaction. So, that's kind of the latest on that one. Illinois and Missouri have not joined yet. I would expect that the Illinois people will probably try to join in because now it's class action, so they can make it bigger and stuff. Their lawsuits are virtually identical in their premise. So, and don't yell at me if I say something that's not quite legally correct, okay? So that's what's going on in the lawsuit, but let me kind of get some thoughts out here. By this going on, all of the discussion boards out there and stuff like that have people saying that we should do it like other countries. Okay, we should do it like Australia. We should do it, where there are no buyer's agents or very few buyer's agents. And so the Department of Justice has decided that we are not valuable in the transaction. So a couple of things that come with that, and forgive me if I get riled up because this really does piss me off. The idea is, number one, we're not worth any of the money that we charge for our services as buyer's agents. So that's number one. The reality is that right now, especially, there has never been a time that buyer's agents were needed more. I mean, it's crazy out there. You need to be on your game as far as houses coming on the market. You need to be on your game with negotiating tools of what you can do. We had lots of discussion on that in your other class. Just what can you do to make offers work? Because most listing agents are not going to say, just take the highest offer. There are a few, I know there are some of them out there, but there's so many things that are part of it and so many things that are like, you got to think about appraisal and will that come in? Is there a cash offer? Escalation clauses that are part of that, which we did find out just as quick as, I take asides. We did stop in Cedar Rapids to present this, and we started talking a little bit about escalation clauses and found that in Cedar Rapids, if there are 2 escalation clauses inside of an offer, inside of a listing for sale, and 2 different escalation clauses come in, that they automatically deem that those 2 will ramp each other up till it hits the top. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with that.
I mean, it makes sense. I can see the,
Yeah, but it's like really weird. We had Quad Cities, we had one where the seller or seller's agent was an attorney. And so he said, well, yeah, there's an escalation clause in there, so it's gonna automatically take it to the top. We're like, no, you get one bite at the apple. I mean, it's like
but working for the buyer's lands.
you find your first together. You find your best, you know,
We're on the
offer,
buyer's side.
and then you go the next step above that. That's it. That's where you're at. So anyway, that's going to be a discussion because Cedar Rapids told us that they had been consulting nationally, and that was the more likely scenario. So just so you know, that's going on. Yes, sir.
The more likely scenario is if the two escalating offers are going to just run themselves to the top. That's the
Yeah,
scenario.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and
That's
Rodney had one the other, is Rodney, I don't think he's there. He had one the other day where the same thing happened. So like he had a few offers and maybe the offer that was the lowest one was like, let's say $5,000 more than the list price. I don't remember the numbers.
Yeah.
And then he had two escalations that went up 20,000 over the list price. So
like
for
their
his,
top dollar.
yeah, so
okay.
for his seller, wouldn't they escalate over each other versus just being $6,000 instead of the bucket? So it makes sense when you think about it when you're looking at those competing offers, because at what point do you stop? It doesn't say. And so I was like,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that it works that way, but counter.
Well, and that's always been my solution in when you get like two escalating offers out there and you have other offers in and stuff. My solution in my mind is always pick the one that you like the absolute best, that has the financing, the timing, you know, whether, you know, if they're dealing with appraisals, whatever the other stuff is. The one that you like, maybe they're already pre-approved where some of the others are pre-qualified, whatever. And you go back and say, okay, we really like your offer. We really like you as a buyer. If you pay this much, we'll sell it. Just count. So, because there's nothing, the fact that you have an escalation clause in an offer does not make you have to use it. You can counter above it, beside it, around it, whatever. And you can simplify your life, because if I counter you, I don't have to show you anything else. I don't have to redact a copy of any offer and send it to you as proof. It's like, here's the deal. You want to buy it? There's your chance. So, okay. So as we're going through and talking about this lawsuit, I'm not sure about the validity of the lawsuit and how far either one of them will go. And part of the reason for that is the premise is flawed.
Joe's raising her hand.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
all
just
right.
want, you're back on the lawsuits, and
Yeah.
I wanted to mention everybody should go to the website competition.realtor, because NAR has given us some really good tools that we should put in place by individual agents and offices that counteracts that. You know, it's proving our value to our sellers and our buyers, and actually trying to educate people the way we work. And it's something new that just came out. We talked a lot about it in DC, but I would encourage everyone to go there. Competition.realtor.
Okay. Yeah. Check that out. We do have a buyer agent value sheet.
Yes.
Some of it was taken out of NAR and the paperwork that they were providing. So I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but we did try to take some of that into account. So with this lawsuit, though, what their premise is flawed. You know, it's flawed in its presentation, in that we don't have rules in our MLSs that say you have to pay a certain amount. We have rules in our MLSs that say you have to pay something. So like in ours, you have to pay at least $1 commission to a buyer's agent to be able to be on the system, because the system promises two things when you are part of it, and that is cooperation and then compensation. So the premise of them saying, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's flawed on its surface. The other thing that gets me riled up is that we've got people that are saying, okay, from here on out, buyers need to be responsible for paying the agent. Now, we have had, as long as I've been in business, we have had our speaking heads in Congress, and they speak in political rallies and whatever. They all speak to affordability of housing. And now it's a big giant buzzword because it doesn't exist right now. Affordability is like starting to go out the window. And so what they're saying is that they don't need you, they don't need to pay you, or if they do, they have to pay it themselves. There's not a clear mechanism yet available in the residential mortgage market for you to put your fee, your commission in and have it paid through the closing. There are some that will accept that, some that will work around it. It's morphing just a little bit as you talk to different lenders, and I encourage you to talk to your own. But the reality is now they're saying, okay, the biggest impediment to buying a house, especially for first-time home buyers, is, anybody? Down payment. That's the biggest impediment. It's been that way forever. And so they have worked on law and rules and everything to where it's like, used to be that it was 20% down on conventional, and then they got to 10, and then finally 5. Now there's 3%. There's 3% on B or on FHA. There's no directly down payment on VA, but they did all this because they had to get that down payment down, and now they're saying, hey, guess what? You guys pay your own commission. Okay, so we just lost more affordability, more purchasability from every buyer out there, and the hardest hit is our underserved population. That's the hardest hit. The people that have struggled to get housing for years and years, or people of color are massacred by this kind of rule. Just massacred. It's horrendous. And we're going to go, oh, we'll give you $5,000 to help out. That won't even pay the commission on a lot of deals. But that's going to make a big difference. And so it's time we started thinking about affordability. Really needs to be something everybody works on. That's part of our gig. And to have the Department of Justice make statements like this that will just slam all the lower income buyers, all the underserved population, and most first-time home buyers, it's going to massacre them if they have to figure out a way to come up with another whatever percentage that they end up agreeing to. It's harmful. It's harmful. And so this stat kind of amazes me. Is like there's about 97% of people who research online to look at houses and that kind of stuff. There's 90% or better of those people choose to work with a realtor. Okay, like 9 out of 10. In the millennial group, which is that's the largest group of people ever. Okay, they beat us poor baby boomers up. They're larger, and of course we're shrinking because we're fading into the sunset as we age. But so millennials they're our biggest population of buyers, and in surveys of millennials, they are 94% in favor of having professional help when they're buying a house. 94%. So the Department of Justice is saying to 94% of our largest population group, doorbell. That just strikes me as just really, really strange. That they believe that they have that kind of a handle on what's going on out there and how to serve their general populace. So like I said, I get a little frustrated with that, but it is so ridiculous that the people that least can afford are going to be impacted the most. Affordability is going to get shot. And the people who want to be served by a professional agent to help them in this, I mean, this is a ridiculous process anymore. I mean, look at your files. I mean, the amount of paperwork that you have to fill out, all the litigious steps that you have to take along the way, not just to protect yourself, but to protect your buyers and sellers and make sure things are going on, and you use your knowledge and your experience and help them stay away from those potholes in the transaction, and you steer them around them, or that's part of the thing. Anybody need a spam call?
No.
No? Okay.
They need gift cards again.
Huh?
They need gift cards again.
Yeah, probably. And I haven't done that for a while. I'm getting broke. I'm gonna have to do that again. So anyway, that's the lawsuit premise. And so in light of that lawsuit, there's some things that I want to talk about. We have some things that we need to change a little bit, and you'll find from NAR all the way through to each local agent. There are things that we've been used to doing that have to change out a little bit. One of those things that is extremely important is when you are listing a property. We have to make sure that sellers understand, what is this commission for? We've tried to help by putting out the commission on the listing agreement and then the spot where it says how much is being paid to the buyer's agent. But this isn't just like a Passover. You fill it out and hope they sign without asking a question. That's long gone. We can't do that anymore. As sellers agents, we have to explain to them, this is the process of you adding money in there, and whatever that amount is ends up being the decision of the seller with your counsel, of course. Like, what kind of impact does that have, and that kind of stuff. I would encourage you not to condense the conversation into, if you don't offer enough, other agents won't show it, because of course that is gets, and that will be locked in as a NAR rule. Is it December or September? One of those that's coming.
I'm thinking January 1, but I'm not.
January, yeah. But that will be one of the NAR rules, because we have all these entrepreneurs out there who think that the best way to get business is lie to people and tell them that your service is free. It's never been free, ever. It may be that somebody else is paying that service for you, which we do with sellers a lot of times, because that works within the system of financing and that kind of things. But it's never, ever been free. Okay? It's rolled into the purchase price. It's wrapped up. It's all part of it. It's like the gratuity at a restaurant, and there's more than 6 of them. It's already there. It's not free. You look at it and go, oh shit, they're charging the gratuity. Everybody passes it around at the table to make sure you don't overget, right? So you're paying it. That explanation is part of your whole market strategy that you need to talk to a seller about, because not only is it that buyers are out there, and right now they're pretty multiple for price ranges and places that are on the market that are quote affordable. What's affordable now? Anything under $500,000? Is that our new affordable thing? It's like, good Lord. I never thought that I couldn't afford to have a house that I'd like. It's like, that's crazy. But when you're discussing market conditions, there's things to talk to a seller about. one of those might be that, you know, there are situations where an agent might have an exclusive buyer's arrangement with the buyers. And they, because of that exclusive arrangement, will be sorting through and looking at how much commission is being paid. Because when you have an exclusive agency agreement with a buyer, it is now your fiduciary responsibility to explain to them, if you buy this house, you have to pay this. Or if you bought this house, you'd have to pay that. That is part of your process. So it turns the whole idea on its head, where it's like, well, you know, we don't want to go look at that one, you know, and shove it off the side of the table or something. I mean, everybody knows an agent that's done that. So it allows you to do that. And in your discussion with the seller, you are talking to them about, hey, if we offset the majority of that cost, that would be a huge benefit to that buyer's agent and to that buyer. That would be a wonderful benefit to provide to them, to say, hey, look, we're willing to be part of that. Okay, it's along the lines of, we're willing to pay $3,000 in closing costs or whatever. We're willing to participate in that expense that you're going to have as a buyer. Okay, so that's the idea, that that the seller understands the process. And one of the things is, that's the part of that offer. Do I have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Barry has his hand up.
Barry, what's up? You gotta unmute
You're on
yourself.
I
Unmute.
thought it did.
There you go. Okay. Oh, now you're back. There we go. Come on.
Nope.
One more time. Yes.
There?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so just, since this is going to be a broker issue, are we going to have an additional form in dot loop on the function so that you've got something signed to show that we as agents covered it?
The only thing we have at this point is our listing agreement, which it does show that you're charging this much and you're paying that much.
But it sounds like you're saying we need to show that we explained the function and the cost further.
I don't know that we've reached that level where we need a form to show that. I'm just encouraging everybody to have that discussion and talk about that and make sure that you go over that process and what commission is about. You know, because I mean, it's been a long time, and we've just had such a forgive me, easy job when it comes to talking about commission. We've had a pretty easy job with it. You know, we're like, well, you know, everybody gets 6 and everyone pays 3 and the world's good and all this kind of stuff. If you haven't, go out and search 0 to 3% for commissions on your system and see how many aren't paying 3 now. It's going down. Or go to the Quad Cities, right, Beth? Because the best they get is 2.4 or 2.8 or somewhere in that range. You know, because they have a different, what we call it, Beth, mindset as far as the commission splits.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's different, you know.
Mhm.
They would be pretty thrilled if somebody paid 3 up there.
But what is the overall commission that the seller is paying? That different?
On,
So if the buyer's agent is only getting 2.8.
yeah,
What's the overall commission?
7.
yes, yeah. Here's the weird thing, and forgive me for saying weird, Beth.
Oh,
The different thing
yeah.
in the Quad Cities is that the mindset there is that the listing agents get 60% and buyer's agents get 40%. And we're trying our very best to get away from that rule because it's collusion and against the law to do that. You can't agree to splits with other places because that's against the rules. That doesn't work.
But when you're meeting with your seller and you're talking about, and maybe it's somebody who does not care to pay the buyer's agent. So they're like, well, I'll pay him $1, Mr. Generous. So, okay, Mr. Generous, like, let's look at the competition. So you could show him the other listings on the MLS.
Yeah, you can talk with
in
them.
his range and
Yeah,
see,
and
this is possibly going to work against you, especially because, on the comps that I've used to help set the price of your property, there was, look at these commissions that was included in that price.
yeah, it's part of your responsibility to explain, just like anything else, a decision has a ramification. You need to make sure they understand ramifications of their decisions, so that they can make them with full knowledge. Your decision then ends up being, if they're said, look, I'll pay you, but I ain't paying Jack to anybody else. And then your decision is, do I want this listing? So, because I know, Mike, didn't you tell me that you had said no to somebody on that?
I had,
Talk loud, we have a mic. Oh, well, baby seat, you're not.
Don't yell at the baby.
no, I had a for sale by owner that I was gonna bring a buyer, but they were willing to pay me 3%. Buyer ended up not liking it, ended up taking a listing. And in that conversation, they were like, well, I'd love to give you 3%, but I'm not paying. We give them 1. And they're like, you're worth 3. I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
I've showed this house 5 times myself. They're all idiots. And it's worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a top, and I think we ended up doing the listing for 5 and 2.5 on each side is where I kind of got to.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 4% with 1.
And did you get a phone call or two on the 2.5%? That's so.
No.
And did you get some from other companies? Okay. So,
I don't know.
look, we can negotiate and talk commission on individual property with another agent, even from another company. But we can't do it for multiple, can't do a blanket, we can't do any of that. And the company you work for will not dictate how you run your business. We're just not going to do that. We have 2 really strong, hard, fast rules in this company, and one is you can't do anything illegal. You know, the other thing is you can't do anything unethical. Those 2 things are absolutely not going to work here. Other than that, we're pretty open. So we're going to have some agents that maybe don't do a great job and end up fast and loose.
Living the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we could have a fast and loose. I'm not sure. But so have an awareness that everybody is out there doing their best. But let's get into the actual exclusive buyer's arrangement. And part of this, you know, as we're going through, that is going to be more and more pressure on the market, is to lower buyer's agents' commissions. It's hard telling what the courts will decide on how we have to do that. It could be, you know what, we're really actually doing a pretty good job, which we are. But the court might decide, you know what, it really doesn't hold water. Or they could go all the way the other way, and they could say, absolutely no way in hell are you allowed to force a seller to pay commission, and you have to put their listings on your system because that's the way it's going to be. That could happen too. And if that happens, we all better have an idea of how we can get paid, because they're going to say the seller won't and can't, or they will say you can't ask them to. They maybe the option to is still available. So we need to get really good at it. Yes, ma'am.
I think getting back to what Barry was asking too, is there going to be some sort of form that we need the buyer to sign on every house we show that says, I told you this one is 2.5, this one's 2%, this one's $500. by showing them the MLS sheet? How it
Yes,
is,
but yeah,
and
you just need to communicate fiduciary responsibility to them. That if it's, you know, if it's a for sale by owner, or if it's a next generation or something, you have to communicate them the situation within the listing. You know, we have to be able to get them to understand how the process is going to work. So it's going to be kind of the same thing. But if in fact you're in exclusive buyer's agency, that will allow you to share that information so that they can make a decision. They may say, you know what, I'm not, we're not going to go see that one because we're not going to, you know, eat that extra whatever percentage that is. And in the seller's discussion, talking with them, the best presentation is talking with them about the use of exclusive buyer's agents and how you can help that process as a seller. That way, you're not proposing to them that it won't get shown if it's too low. You know, you're just talking to them. Here's what's out there. You get to make decisions. So, and apparently, you can make a decision to lock in on a certain percent that you're paying and not take the listing if they won't pay that. Or you can pay a certain percent and take the listing for whatever's left. So all those decisions still rest in your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, so is there other companies using this form as well, or?
Doing exclusive buyers, that form?
Asking for the different, this is an exclusive buyer form, right? So
Yes.
it's not like separate, a different form than, okay.
Yeah, it's just part of the agency.
Yeah,
You know,
okay,
first
okay.
you get agency and then you expand it to exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Could I ask a question?
yes, of course. Well, you can ask the question. If we're going to talk about it, I'll put it on hold.
Are you guys gonna have any go to new contract?
No. No, we're not. We're probably not taking anybody to court. You know, it's the same thing with, you know, listings, and they decide they wanted to cancel their listing because they didn't want to sell their house anymore. And you're like, okay. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, you say that a different agents sold their house or listed it and whatever. And, you know, you had a protection period and all that stuff. And it's just at this point, and I'm speaking for my thoughts. At this point, probably it's not going to be something that we take clients to court.
But if you wanted to, they would probably support you in it.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's a form you've done, it's agreement, it's there. Yes, of course. But we're not going to, as a company, it makes it really hard to yeah. No, I understand your point. And it's just, I guess we'd have to see, you know, circumstances and all that, but okay. Sure, let's do
You
that.
raise your own. And then you got
Yeah, so you have the slush fund, okay? So, anyway, this was just a quote that I had. And this has to do with exclusive buyer agency. And it's like, if a buyer's agent can't negotiate a full commission on his or own behalf, how effective do you think that agent would be in negotiating the best possible price and terms for the property you want to purchase? So you got to understand that, you know, as listing agents, sometimes we run into that buyer's agent. They're like, oh God, that's fun. That's going to be fun, you know, already. But the same thing happens with some listing agents. And you know, you're like, here we go. You know, this is not going to be good because I know them. I've worked with them before or whatever. And And to that point, one of the things that I've always professed over the years to any agent that I've had the opportunity to counsel is that if you approach this business that when you are the listing agent or when you are the selling agent, that you assume that every single detail of the transaction is going to be performed by you. Going to be your job. If you do that, now stick with me, if you do that, your mindset will change. If you're serious, your mindset will change. And anytime the other agent does something, you'll be thankful. And you'll thank them for that work. Even if it's like, well, hell yeah, they did it. It's their job. But if you change your mindset, it will change the way you deal with other agents. Trust me. It's just a great mind shift that allows you to be thankful for the things that they do that they should be doing anyway. And it's okay. It works. Just a thought. So, but like I said, the commission can't be agreed to with other brokers unless you're in a specific negotiation. And in that negotiation on a specific property, you can certainly talk with the other agent, say, you know what, I could take a hit if you want to take a hit. You know, we could make this transaction work. That's okay. That's negotiating inside of a listing itself. It's not negotiating or talking about overall, this is how we're going to work together as two different companies. Okay. Hopefully that makes there's one thing that I want to talk about that I don't have to talk a lot about here, but using the word splits when you're talking about agents and listing and selling, don't use the word splits, because splits would imply that you have an agreement of we're going to do this with the other company. The agreement is with the seller on how much you're going to pay that other company's buyer's agent. That's where the process starts. And it's not based on anything arbitrary. Like, you know, I know agents here, they're like, oh, we always do 50-50. Don't say that. You may personally, but when you expand that to be anything other than you and your personal preference, talking with your seller, don't say it. Okay? Because that starts to get on the edge of collusion, starts to get on the edge of antitrust, and there are specific rules. I have them here. If anybody wants to talk, it's there. So the purpose of an exclusive buyer's agency, okay? Because there's actually two purposes. One, in our mindset, it's always, well, I need to protect my commission. I need to protect my commission. And there's certainly some validity to that, in that you do want to know that if you have a person and you spend time and effort and you're finding houses and meeting them and showing them houses and taking them in for financing and helping them get, you know, like load up their stuff and send it into the lender, and you do all this kind of stuff, you should have some agreement that they in fact are going to commit back to you the way you've committed to them. So there's that back and forth commitment. The commitment from you to them is that you're going to do the things that are required. All the stuff that's part of that. One of the articles that we were reading is that buyers want things from you. And it's things we do, and we do a lot of things for buyers, and then we never think about it. Because we're just doing business. Just, you know, help and taking care of them like that. But here, the buyers want help finding the right home to purchase. They need to know it's the right home, you know, so that's through You know, how's the home put together? How's the livability? Where's it located at? You know, all of those things. They need the right home to purchase. They need desperate help with the sale and price negotiations. I mean, that's your gig. If you're not right now, just be honest with yourself. If you're not a really strong negotiator, learn. Single best thing you can do for people is negotiate well. Okay? And when I talk about that, another aside, Michelle makes fun of me because I take birds all right. In the process of negotiating, there are, we all learn, we go to these places and they learn sales techniques, you know, sales techniques. And if you ever wonder about sales techniques, go to a furniture store. That they have the best sales techniques of anybody. You go in there, man, they're closing you, you know, they're doing all these techniques, and or like buying a car, they're like, I don't know if I can go there. Let me check with my manager. Okay. That's called the higher authority close. Okay. It's a plan. You know, or if there's two people and they're going back, then they might have the the good guy, bad guy. You know, where this guy's like, we really need to, oh, man, I don't think we can, you know, and it's the good guy, bad guy close. So they're out there and we study them and we learn a lot of those things. One, you know, that was taught a lot is called reduce to the ridiculous. Do you know for 37 cents a day, you can afford that place? I know it sounds weird, but listen, here's the idea behind sales techniques. Sales techniques in our business are designed to cause somebody to make a decision that's to their benefit. Because we know it, and we all know, we're like, oh my God, you got to do this. You have to do this. Or we know that house is the house for them. Or we know that financing is, you need to lock that in. But if you're like me, I've always told every client I work with, listen, I will do virtually anything for you. Anything. Except one thing. And then I get like meatloaf. And I'm like, I won't make a decision. Did you like that reference?
It was a good one.
But that's the thing we can't do for buyers and sellers. We can't make decisions for them. We have to inform them. We have to educate them. We have to make sure they have everything they need to make that decision. And then we have to figure out a way to cause them to make it. Okay? We have to cause them to make it. That's where sales techniques come in. So I just wanted to throw that. So the third one is that they need help with forms and contracts and paperwork and all that stuff. I mean, think about it. Hell, we'd look at it and go, what the hell is this one for now? We have a new one. What's that for? And so imagine a buyer out there and all this paperwork's there. And we have to figure out some way of explaining it to them that doesn't involve reading it. Do they? Because if you do, they won't understand it anyway. You need to take every form that you have, you should have in your head a condensed version of what that means and the ability to expand on it if they need. That makes sense? My thing was, I don't know, Bev, if I did that when you were first starting. Bev, she's so amazing because she started with me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So every time I screw something up,
Yeah, exactly. But I used to say, and this was back in presentation, was when you had a form like purchase agreement, you could turn it around, slide it in front of them, and explain everything on there. Upside down, you couldn't read it. If you can't do that, you don't know your form yet. You don't know that 1 says this and 2 says that, 3 says that, 4 says that. So get that ability to condense and learn it so that you are then really good at explaining it. Okay? Other aside. Oh gosh. So the side that I want to talk about with the agents to the buyers. Imagine the commitment that you're making to them. when they make that commitment to you, those things, all of those things that we just talked about, what they want most, that's what we are guaranteeing when we have exclusive buyer's agency. We're telling them, we will do this. I'm signing right here, guaranteeing my services to you. And Doug, so you know, they can, in fact, fire you if you don't live up to the agreement.
Yeah, Doug.
Thought I'd let you know
Well,
that.
no, I mean, it's very reasonable to me. I'm not doing my job, man.
Yeah, no, but it's true that it is a two-sided offer or two-sided contract between the buyer and you. It works the same way, almost exactly the same way as a listing contract works. They commit to you that they're going to list their property and take advantage of all the services you provide, and you guarantee them that you're in fact going to do all of those things, that you're going to take care of it, that I got you, you're right here, you know? So that's part of the whole guarantee part. As far as presenting to buyers, I think the best one ahead in Quad Cities, there's an agent named Jen Miller. She's part of the Green Door team up there. And Jen was sitting there in the presentation, and I could almost tell she was kind of nervous. And so she did the meat hand raise, like, okay, don't really notice this, okay? And so I called on her, and she said, the first time I ever sat in front of people and proposed an exclusive buyer agreement with them, I was shaking, thank you. I was shaking like a leaf. She said, I'm sure they could visibly see me shaking. I was so nervous. But she said, the reason I made that decision is in 1 year, she had 9 buyers go without her at buying for sale by owners. 9 of people she had worked with and got financing for and shown houses to and that kind of thing. And they walked away. And she said, I just decided I'm done with this. And if you don't want to work with me, that's fine. It's okay. Go find some agent who isn't going to force you and won't do half the job I do. One of the things that I got to tell you is that there's a point, and we have newer agents, not too many, very new, but agents of differing levels of experience in this business. I'll explain something to you. This business is an experience business because you gain knowledge. You know, knowledge is coming at you from all over the place. If you acquire this knowledge, and at some point you start learning how to use that knowledge to the benefit of your people. That's called experience. And when you combine knowledge with experience, you have just become a realtor. And how do you know that? Let me tell you this. If you're meeting with somebody, seller, buyer, whatever, and they say, yeah, we're going to go a different direction. And I'm sure we've all had somebody that makes that decision. They're not going to work with you. You know in your heart, you know in your soul that they are making a mistake because they will never, ever get the kind of quality of service that you know that. That's when you were officially a realtor. That's when you made it. And I don't care if it takes you 2 years or 10 years, you'll get to that point where you know it's like, oh man, I feel bad for them because they're making a mistake. That's not being cocky. It's knowing in your heart that nobody's going to take better care of them than you. It's part of the deal. But another aside. I keep turning corners here. So when you're presenting to the buyers, it's really just about explaining the process. Because we already explain agency. We already go through the things that we do for them exclusively and for everybody as part of the transaction. We explain those agency requirements. And then you start talking to them about the services that you provide to them. This is what we do. And this is how the process goes. This is the paperwork, and that's how that's going to go. Does anybody ever give a bundle of purchase paperwork to their buyers when they need them? It's pretty astounding. And you literally go, okay, well, here's the stuff we're going to be using. Now, we can take a little time right now and go over some of that so you have some understanding of it. Or if you want to take it home and read it, call me later with questions. Either one of those is fine. And they will start understanding the level of expertise that you have to have just to understand that bundle of paperwork. That's just the purchase part. That isn't the closing part and the financing part and all the other stuff that you have to know about. It's just the purchase part. That's it. I like to take at least the purchase agreement and go over it with them, because I want to explain to them all the boilerplate language that's in a purchase agreement. I want to have a little basic understanding of those things so that when the important time comes, which now the intensity of that decision is pretty high, you don't have to worry about these things because they know this is the financing, this is the termite part, this is the inspection part. And then you're just discussing what goes in the blanks so that they have more comfort with it. Just a thought. So the values that you bring. Does anybody have questions on any of that part that I've worked back and forth through? Okay. So let me explain, and you have this, and you certainly there's a lot more to go over, but listen, you're the expert in the home buyer's process. You help them navigate the most complex and important transaction they'll probably ever do, especially if they're new, or if they're, like somebody who's like, 25 years ago, they bought a house. It's a touch different now. So the idea, you're that person. You're the one. And you're at the hub, okay? They got a lender helping over here. They got an inspector helping over here. They got a closer helping over here. But you're the one in the middle. You're the one coordinating those efforts. Make sure stuff happens. And if you're like in a team situation, you may have people that take care of that part or that part or that part. And that's totally fine. You now have experts in each of those areas to take care of them. And you should tout that like crazy. You've got the knowledge of the real estate market. I mean, that's all we do. Look at the market, what's going on? Where's the interest rates? How's all this process go? What's the process of buying a house nowadays? Do we do an escalation clause? Do we go in over? What do we do about the appraisal? All this process. Do we give up on an inspection? The house is only 32 years old. I mean, come on, what could be wrong, right? So all of that stuff is part of it. The knowledge of the purchase process. They got no clue. If they bought 10 houses in the last 10 years, I guarantee you, they don't understand the purchase process. Because all they're doing is signing shit to get the house and get the keys, give you money. That's it. Okay? You're the one that has that process. And the closing process, oh my gosh, that is so misunderstood. How that works and who does what, when they do it. You got to bring money here, you got to do this here. Where's the credits? How's that going to work? All the process of going to closing. When do they actually own a house? Some agents do not understand when ownership transfers from one person to another. If you don't know that, find out. It's important. It's very important. One of the big parts of that is called access. So when you give somebody a key, that's huge. The monster part of the process. Careful with that. Be careful with it. Here, go ahead and take the key. I know we're closing tomorrow. That's scary stuff. You are the expert in negotiating. You're the one. You're the one, you're advising them. They don't know. What should I do? I don't know. Listen, are you in a situation where for the seller, you could close on one day, but not actually need to take possession for a couple of days? Is that something you could do? Because, hey, that's huge. That's huge. My grandson did something the other day, and this was, he's a 20-year-old just buying his first town. And he did something that blew me away. He knew that the lady that he was trying to buy the townhome from, she was 70 years old. Don't make fun. Yes, I am. But she was 70 years old. So he wrote a letter. And he explained to her that this was his first house, that he felt extremely comfortable when he went in. He felt at home. The place made him feel a certain way when he went inside. And then he said, listen, I'm younger and I'm capable. And if you need any help whatsoever moving, I'll be there for you. Guess who got the house? And he wasn't coached. I was blown away that he did that. And he got it. There were more than one offer. He got it. So, pretty cool. So, the last one of that list is probably the most important. And it's because you, especially working here, you have honesty and integrity. Because if you don't, you're not here. Just be honest with you. Honesty and integrity. Work hard, be nice. That's just not there because it sounds good. That's the way we believe business should be done.
I mean, being mean is ego.
No, it is frowned upon. And being mean, there's two different things. I mean, if you're being mean by, helping protect your seller, your buyer, negotiating tough, and, following those guidelines, I'm fine. If you tell somebody they're an asshole for not accepting your offer, he might need to go. Okay, that's maybe one step or three over the line. So I think you're on your last one. Just, I'll have to talk to the other guys, but I'm thinking you're thin ice at least.
And Dave White wants to know what the fine is for
Huh?
that. Dave White wants to know what the fine is for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the process. And I want to answer any questions that we have about this and how it works. And any questions you have about anything that's processing in the business right now, I'm an open book. Yes, ma'am.
I do, and I'm gonna try really hard on this one. I've been with Remax for a long time, and I've always loved that, this goes back to Wisconsin, I've always loved that Remax would let you run your business the way you run your business.
Yes.
But given the way the market, and I heard last year, I think it was, that Iowa Realty was not letting their agents pay listings less than 7%. And I thought, well, they're gonna lose a lot of agents probably because they can't compete.
Right.
And so I would love to see, I think that Remax is still a great name out there and people recognize the difference between a Remax agent and something don't.
Sure.
But at what point does Remax stand up and say, we are the elite, we are knowledgeable, experienced, and if you want to cut your commissions to nothing and work for free, then go work for the boutique brokers that are only charging whatever, just so that we can differentiate ourselves to say, yeah, I feel like there should be some sort of standard, because otherwise, how many agents are going to be able to afford to work everything? Because they're cutting their commission on the list side, on the buy side, the fees here are expensive.
Yeah.
So we're,
Well, part of your question you answered is that if the way you have to do business is to cut fees to get business, you're probably not going to last long. You're just not. The other part of that is, listen, we give all of you severe amount of leeway, severe amount. We allow you make decisions, run your business. We certainly, I mean, we're not above calling and going, have you thought this through? You know, is this really the direction you want to go? Is this something that maybe we should talk about? What is it that you're not doing? How can we help you do a better job, you know, so that you can do the things that you need to do? But with all of that, you know, all that freedom that we give comes with great responsibility. Great responsibility. Because we're all in this together. We're all in it together. And what you do not only reflects on yourself, reflects on us, reflects on our company, reflects on our business as realtors. Those decisions that you make have that kind of magnitude in each one that you make. And we certainly need to be aware of that. How are you going to run your business? There's a ton of models out there. Ours is more freedom, entrepreneurial, want you to do your thing. We have not, to date, put harsh restrictions. There certainly is that ability. So far, we haven't done that. We've been able to, you know, talk with agents, talk to them about decisions they're making and stuff. But hey, look, it's hard out there, you know, and if you have to, in a situation, you know, the arbitrary percentages that somebody might require their agents to charge does not take into account the situation that that client is in. Maybe you're helping them because they're dying and they need to get out desperately. Maybe you're helping them because they're going to sell that one and then come and buy another one with you, and you have an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with them. So we don't know all of that. And so to just arbitrarily stick a number out there and say, this is it, we probably will not do that. But be aware, you're responsible for your business. And we're responsible for you. Those two things all need to work. It all needs to come together. It all needs to be part of the process. So we want you to work hard. We want you to be nice. We want you to negotiate the shit out of things, because that's part of being nice, because you take care of your clients and do the right thing for them. So we want all of that. But understand, every decision you make reflects back upon you and then blossoms out through the whole industry. So just always have that in mind. It's not what happened that day. Yes, ma'am.
Couple of questions. The thing that I struggle with is trying to, because I've been trust. Well, trust.
Oh, absolutely.
But now I need to make sure I get paid, because
Yeah.
it's not so much about trust anymore. So that's fine. But I'm struggling with creating my own system of when I'll have that conversation, what that conversation is going to say. And I have all the handouts. It's just putting it all together. It's really overwhelming. So I forgot what Kelsey said. Was that recorded by any chance?
Yes, it was.
Great. So you can share that link with me
Yeah,
or tell me where
Kelsey,
to find it.
Cameron, and then
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
was there. And Mike's a great resource. I'm gonna.
You said I won't. You're beginning of this really.
Trying to be nice.
But it's difficult to avoid, I think is where you're going with that. So then,
But he does. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
Yes.
okay. So Shane and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I thought what you said about like how you have that conversation with your buyers on, you know, there might be a premium fee. Let's talk about how it works with next generation for sell by owner. I thought that was really great. How are you going to use the exclusive agreement?
You know, the only time I've used it is when and they want to write properly. Have the conversation with them. They're writing on a farm that's paying less. And I'll just explain it. I said, hey, there's a premium on this. A lot of them see this one. I'll just give them $1. It's going to have to get $1. Now, what I will also do, so if you've got a reduced commission, that says a closing process, why? I'll say, we'll still try to get it. So I've got one now where we might normally have 3,000 votes. That's for 4. Like, this isn't going to come directly out of your pocket. We're trying to get it from the buyer, but if you can't get it from them, you're gonna have to write that check. Okay.
And it's the process of buyer interview. Everybody does it different. Like I said last time here, my daughter-in-law is completely different than anything I've ever done. And we used to fight about it. The fact is she's extremely successful, so apparently I'm wrong. But the process is in the agency presentation. That's where all of it should be contained, because it's just an extension. It's one more step in the agency. So when you're explaining agency documents and explaining all the stuff that's on there, then the next step is, here is exclusive agency. The reason we do this is I want to make a commitment to you. I want you to make a commitment to me. We're in this together. And you talk about those things. You have that discussion with them. Listen, like I said, millennials alone, 94% want to use a professional agent. The likelihood of them saying no when you offer them professional services is pretty thin, really, Liz.
Something that you said, but the government that are assigned. And they understand. How deep does it go when you're showing them? Honestly, I didn't even look at the commission until the house that I'm showing until they want to write an offer, and then I'm like, back. They only have 2% on this.
Yeah.
Whatever. How deep does that go as far as what we're making them sign, knowing that they understand that this house is 2% before they go see it? But they're going to be in trouble if they're not saying that stuff. Right.
Well, the idea of doing the exclusive is that then it flips over, and instead of you saying, look, I'm only going to get paid this much, you're saying, hey, just so you know, they are only paying this much of your commission. So it flips it a little bit into what you're doing is to their benefit. That's your explanation to them. We got 4 houses to look at. 2 of them are at 3, one's at 2.5, one's at 2. I want you to know where those are, because each one of them has an impact on you as a buyer. And then the whole process of, getting closing costs, or, there's one lender that I talked to. He said, look, I don't care if it's the seller paying the commission or the buyer paying the commission, it's still commission. We just put it on. And it comes out of the buyer's side instead of the seller side. So they have, with their underwriters / investors, they've got something set up. And more, you're finding lenders who, I'm sorry? Yeah, absolutely. And you have to, like VA, it's much more important to try to get it into the seller paying the costs. It's much more important because you don't have the leeway in VA because of their guidelines. So
You're saying that they can wrap it into finance.
some lenders can, yes.
But
And
that
if,
is like 3% amount, right?
I think that's for closing costs.
That's developing.
yeah, seller paid closing costs can only be a certain amount.
Okay.
So it depends. And sometimes say, listen, in an offer, you can put, if you have to, if closing costs are exhausted like that, you can put in the purchase agreement that seller agrees to pay buyer's acquisition fee in the amount of. So you can put that in. Yes, sir.
Question for you. Unique situation.
Yeah.
I've been a part of it where there's been 2 exclusive forms signed between 2 different companies, unbeknownst to the agents.
Right.
So I guess, could you explain on concept stance on that? So it would be The agents, it'd be on us to have counsel to follow up on that if we wanted to get paid, correct? So if it was a form that was signed, and obviously buyers and sellers can do what they want, they're either gonna say, yep, okay, sounds good, or they're gonna say,
Yeah.
nope, now you gotta come after me for much.
Yeah.
If they do that, it's on us as an agent to have our legal counsel.
We would like talk with our legal.
Of course,
staff and,
sure,
you know, try to figure out what's possible.
sure.
You know, sometimes people are scared enough of attorneys that send one of those stern letters.
Sure.
They're like, oh, okay, never mind. And then some could care less, you know, about that. But that part of your counsel, you know, is to make sure that when you're talking with the buyer, said, listen, you have not set with somebody else. You have not done that. And it was like, well, I signed something back to it. Okay, listen, we need to find that out. And you need to make sure that that is canceled. It would work the same way as if you were getting ready to list a property and there's an active listing on that property. Or if there's a canceled, what's it called, off the market, not canceled. You have to know about that. And so that's part of the discussion that you have with them is like, who have you met with, who you sat down with? You know, you said something about that you looked at houses for a while back in January. You know, did you have a relationship?
I was looking at myself. That's clear. This is a recommended part for a required.
The exclusive buyers agency? No, this is your business. We're not going to require that form. But we're also not going to be able to do anything for you when you show a house unbeknownst to you that is offered $1 for commission. And
Right?
no, I said that directly. We don't have any hard fast plans. I mean, this is pretty
It's a
new.
dynamic situation.
It's a new process, and we're not sure if, you know, we don't know what's coming. All I want to do is prepare. I mean, how often does a listing like refuse to pay? You know, it doesn't happen that often. And so I'm not going to, at this point, I'm not going to focus on the things that might possibly happen. I'm going to focus on making all the other things happen.
What I'm hearing from Doug though, is he wants more forms for everyone to be required.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you remind me what happened back in the day when, Keller Williams came to town and everyone was only offering them $1? I don't remember how that panned out.
Iowa Realty, actually, Iowa Realty got sued by KW in that, and what isn't talked about very much is that KW actually lost because they were following the guidelines presented in the MLS. But they relented in part of the dismantling of that whole thing. They relented and then started bringing them on the pavement. You know, so, but yeah.
How is that possible if it specifically says if Keller Williams is a member of PMAR, that issue can't be variable at that point?
You know, it's not a variable commission. It's called an adverse commission letter that is sent from one broker to another directly.
We don't do that.
No, well, we don't, but you can, by law, you can single out a broker who you believe is causing problems, who is attacking something, who's that kind, and you can send them a letter that says, we're only paying you this much, no matter what.
I think Remax Real Estate Group had an adverse split from Iowa Realty when they.
I think
Yeah.
maybe at one time they did, yeah. I mean, Iowa Realty used to try to be the big dog. It's similar, like Beth will note that we have an adverse commission split with one company called Mel Foster in the Quad Cities. And so they don't like us and some of our agents, and so they've decided that they're going to, they're only going to pay a certain amount.
Was that just Concepts or the company that they were before?
No, just Right now, it's just concepts.
So the adverse split wasn't there at ABC Realty, whatever company you bought.
Yeah,
Correct.
they had done it before in the past a few years ago. And then finally they took it away. But then now we have that it goes on.
Well, yeah, that's, you
Stupid.
talk about being fluid. That's gonna be a very fluid thing. As the process, as the acquisition process turns, the name turns over and all the agents become concepts agents and that. So we'll see. We have some solutions that we've discussed with some of the agents in Quad Cities, so hopefully some of that will work. Whoa,
And
you
can
guys want to discuss it
Do you want to come
individually?
up because they can't hear you online at all?
I'll repeat.
Oh, let me repeat.
Next gen model. Why don't we just, I mean, they seem brilliant right now, next gen.
Yeah,
Why don't we, I mean, I think they've got it figured out, maybe, why don't we, you know, why the Remax turn into a next gen model, we only work with, you know.
and well, why don't we turn into next generation?
Well, I mean, only work with, I mean, next gen has what, 6 people maybe that they've only worked with, you know, their own group and don't let any of the, plus, everybody, you know.
Well, they are, number one, they are not realtors. And so they are not part of the
But
MLS.
the model makes sense that they're like, you know what, we don't want to work with,
Yeah, well, it doesn't make sense because the idea is that they are precluding people from having an agent and having representation unless they do the exclusive buyer's arrangement.
I mean, we could almost do like, exclusive agency listings, just, you know, keep on the in-house within Remax.
We have that, I mean, we have that ability now to only have them in-house. I mean, you just fill out the correct listing paperwork and it is only in-house. So, yeah, we've always had that.
Yeah.
So they don't care, they signed up.
I'm confused by the
Next generation is a firm that they flat fee how much they get paid for this fee, and they don't offer anything to a buyer's agent who brings a buyer.
We don't pay.
Yeah.
I don't show next.
Oh, I just had a question about the next generation too. I'd never heard of them before.
Somebody else?
What?
The baby.
Yeah, settle down back. She's like, next generation, get out of here. Okay, Beth, go ahead.
Oh no, so I was just wondering what next generation is, but you guys just answered the question.
Right, yeah, it's I think you have something similar.
Yeah,
Don't you have just a realty firm?
YUSA I think is the.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's basically the same thing.
so yeah, it's basic that way. Okay,
Tell me, the other day that you're required to show next generation of our plan.
no, I told you that you were required to allow a licensed real estate agent to show your property.
Play nice with others.
I don't play nice with next generation.
Well, I understand, but just understand that if you flat refuse them access, they will, especially if it's Brooke, they will file in for the commission. Yeah, so,
Quite a dichotomy.
yeah, yeah, oh well. If you're that good, you're just that good. Just
I have one question.
About 10 days.
You may need to repeat his question because
yeah,
they can't
well,
hear.
he's gonna have to repeat because I didn't hear it.
Actually, on this, you said that 97% of millennials, is that what I understood you to say?
94%.
94%
That's the
millennials
latest.
value and us as realtors.
Correct.
In that study, And with the fact that we may end up negotiating our own commission, was there anything in that study to explain, are they willing to pay $1,000 for it, $2,500 for it, $10,000 for it?
No.
No.
There wasn't a discussion of how much would you pay. I think that would be directly proportionate to the area, the amount of money and the value provided, all those things that become part of that conversation. I mean, if you're talking about flat dollar, I go work with a buyer in California, I'm sure they'll pay a lot more. Right. But, so it's going to be a number that is movable, works around. Here, I think most people here in the greater Des Moines market and around close to us tend to feel that 3% is the adequate payment to a buyer's agent. That there's nothing that's locked in about that. But yes, sir.
In your opinion, is there anything like area about like the fee not being what you have negotiated, so the buyer to pay more and then also been asking for that closing cost?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a fact for one thing, where you may have negotiated 3 and somebody's offering 2.75.
Now you're asking for 4,000 maybe.
Yeah, so you're saying, okay, I need that other 0.25% added on to that. Or, you have the flexibility. I mean, if this is a person you work with and known them for a long time, the level of service that you had to provide, the time frame, maybe you say, you know what, look, I'm going to help you out. We'll work off of just the 2.75. I'll just accept that.
I was just wondering if the way that the lawsuits and department does things, if they would see something wrong with like saying that, but then we're also then still doing sell it.
No.
Some sort of mask. Right?
No, there is nothing in the lawsuit that talks about that the seller shouldn't pay or that the buyer should pay. What
closing costs are closing.
Well, what I've seen in closing costs is they're run, with your, prepaids, that list of things that the closing costs is going to pay. And then on the end, it says buyer's acquisition. So it just depends on how you want to do that. And there's multiple ways of getting that in, trying to get the seller to pay for it. I recommend that if you're going to do that you don't use the word commission, because there's enough listing agents that won't understand, that still believe that you can't negotiate commission inside of a purchase agreement. The truth is that you can't negotiate the listing commission inside of a purchase agreement, because you're using one contract to try to amend another contract. That is what's against the law. You can negotiate inside that, where to the point even you say, buyer's acquisition fee to be paid by seller. So, and I encourage each of you, if you have lenders that you work with and you like, talk to them about, hey, where's my leeway? Can I just say, I want the sellers to pay my buyer's acquisition fee? We're good. Do I have to bury it into something? Can you, if I just say they're going to pay it, can you then put that in? So and I've talked to half a dozen different lenders, and each one of them, it kind of depends on their underwriters and their investors, and specifically the investors, because they're the ones that buy the loans on the secondary, and if it can't be sold, it won't be made.
So you're saying that we could, verbiage could be buyer agrees to pay a buyer acquisition fee of blank, but it's the extra money and closing costs is going to end up.
Well, in the purchase agreement, you wouldn't put the buyer agrees to pay that commission. It's already in your paperwork. If the seller is going to agree to pay it, then you can do it there.
Homeowners can Why can't we just stay with that would have instead of like, it would be staying hiding? Not hiding, but having to just move around how we get our money.
Because the residential mortgage industry is stuck in the 1980s. That's basically what it's about. In commercial, like you well know, buyer's acquisition fee is a normal cost in a transaction in commercial. So it's like, yep, that's part of it. You add that to the purchase price, boom, we got it. But in residential mortgage, that's not there. And so we have to find underwriters and investors that understand that this process is happening and they are making changes in their requirements to allow it. And at this point, we have to, talk to the lender. How do you want me to handle this?
I don't even mean the lender part, I mean the seller, the whole class action seller side. It sounds like to me that we're still gonna fight, get our commission and more complicated.
No, it's not. We're going to, yes, fight to get our commission, but we're going to do it at the point where a seller could negotiate it. It's there. You're asking the seller to pay a commission, an acquisition fee to your buyer's broker. And so,
Isn't that what we're eliminating now? Is we're eliminating it at like.
no, up front, the buyer is agreeing to pay. On the back end, we're trying to assist the buyer in getting that money. Just like we do for closing costs in a transaction, where we're asking them to pay for appraisals and, all the different things. And so we're trying to make that transition, and residential mortgage brokers and companies are starting to understand that that's happening. They're starting to recognize it. And until they fully recognize it and change a few of their rules, until they do that, yes, it's going to be more complicated for us. The world is changing and there's not a damn thing we can do about it.
I think, if I can go box for a second, I think some of the confusion in the details.
Hey, come up here so they can hear you.
I think some of the confusion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, some of the confusion and how do we move this number around and everything like that is the exclusive buyer's agency form is a suggested thing in anticipation of writing the UC on the wall for how things are going to be in the next 18 to 24 months. And the idea is that it's better to try this out now and get your buyers to agree to pay you 3% of closing people when 9 out of 10 of your transactions are going to be 3% anyway. There's something like 2,000 active houses. I think 185 of them are 2.5% or less, and like 80 of those are some random new construction company. So if that's not it, you're probably going to get paid 3% anyway. But if you can have the conversation now and be comfortable with it over a year of practicing it, in 18 months, when some judge somewhere that's bought one house in their life and it's through a trust fund slams a gavel down and says, you're not worth 3, you've been having this conversation for a year. And so it's, okay, whatever. Here we are, business as usual for everyone in the room, while 80% of the other realtors out there are struggling to make ends meet and accept $1,000 for a house, right? So I think that's where some of
No,
it is so
it's extremely well said, is that, this isn't mandatory, but it is coming. The process is going to change, whether the lawsuits demand it or the public demands it. Our business is it's not turmoil, but it's certainly in change. How we work and how we get paid, the process of selling real estate and working for clients is changing. And it's the knowledge base that's out there. It's the attorneys that want to make extra money. It's the judges and our congressmen, our leadership that's in that do not take the time to understand the process of real estate. It strikes me as the attorney who's going to sell a house, but you have to explain tax proration to them because they have no clue. But damn it, they know. Because we all know that real estate is about 10% law and 90% working your ass off. But we can't do it without the 10% law. So it's just the way it is. We're going to have to be able to change. We're going to have to roll with it and learn from it and do what we need to do to stay viable. I mean, frankly, who knows in the next few years? You know, how many agents are going to make it? Yes, ma'am.
What is your recommendation for the percent to ask for in this scenario? So I was thinking, you know, you explain, okay, well, some houses might have a premium, like if you buy one of Misty's, it might be 0.25%, like she said, 2.75 for the most part, I noticed.
Yeah.
So, you know, there might be a small premium, it might be a big premium. But then when they turn it around on you and they say, oh, what's that listing? Do I owe a premium on that? And it's 3.5%. Or if one day when the buyer's agent commission is published publicly and they can see that without looking. So I was thinking that I would have my fee be 3.5%. And then if I got paid 3, well, that's fine, whatever.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
you may have just answered the question.
Yeah, it's the, I mean, the likelihood of getting 3.5 is getting thinner all the time.
Yeah. But I don't want that guy to be like, hand out. I want the half.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. You can negotiate that
Does
fee.
that happen to you?
It has happened specifically, like, where I had this conversation and a stand-up.
Yeah, come up where they.
Yes,
They're in the Quad Cities. They're struggling to hear you.
Okay, so that's the thing about cities. Okay, sorry, I was more crazy, so I can say that. What's your question?
The people who want to hand out from your.
3.5.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know if they want a handout, but they had signed exclusive agency. They were sending me things on realtor.com, like sending me a screenshot being like, hey, do I have to bring anything extra to the table on this one? Because they knew that was it.
Yeah.
And there was one that was 3.5%. And I was like, no, actually I make more money. So great house. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, they're offering more than 3. So, you know, and we showed it and I did my normal showing process and it was hot garbage. And I told them it was hot garbage. And they were like, don't you make more money on this house? I'm like, right, it's still hot garbage.
It doesn't change the.
There we go. So it's just, if I make 3% on this, awesome. I'm not gonna change the way I represent you, but it's neat that I get more money. And I just was upfront with them about that and they were like, oh, cool.
So nobody has said, Michael, if I have to pay you when it's under 3, you should pay me when it's over 3.
So,
But I like your idea because when you look like a hero, they can kind of, I'll take 3.
and you could send it,
Right.
and you could send a commission reduction form with your offer. That would look pretty neat.
Well, you could do that, but I don't do that.
But if it's 3% and you're asking for 3, I mean, you could say, and you don't even have to pay 3%. Or you can only pay 3. I mean, you could, that's a way.
Would that be contract interference?
No.
Way to not listen.
Part of your offer.
No, I understand. I'm thinking for a second.
Even if we can't negotiate more, how can we negotiate less?
Well, yeah,
But you
inside the
can't.
purchase agreement, you put down. You would have to be outside the purchase agreement.
And then just take the punches as
I
the
wouldn't do the 3.5.
You would do 3.5?
I would not. I just, I gotta make a minimum of 3. That I can work for.
Yeah, that's interesting to say a minimum. It's a minimum that I make. Some might actually pay more. Okay.
Does it say minimum on that form though?
Huh?
Yeah. Maybe the verbiage on that form should be minimum. You should change that.
It'll take
I'm
another
not
6
changing
months.
that form for a while. We spent way too much time on that.
The problem that we're having here, on what you're saying.
Well, I know. Remember we talked about that solving the one-off problems is the last thing I do. It's first I gotta solve the main problem.
So if it becomes a regular problem, we'll just change it to 3.5.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's the pain in the ass.
Yes, sir.
That's a quick question.
It does say minimum compensation, but if such seller compensation is less than the agreed minimum
There
compensation,
you
buyer
go.
agrees to pay the balance.
Good
We
job.
did it already.
Good job, Michelle.
Dang.
I'm sure that was your
I was gonna say,
idea.
I think it did say minimum.
So there.
We all have it. We could.
Yeah, and none of us did.
That's no fun.
So
Chris,
Lance, since we're looking forward 18, 24 months right now, our team's seen in other markets, they're saying 3% commission unless we've been a part of a deal with you where you paid us less than 3% commission. You've seen that? So other markets, for instance, let's say I work with ABC.
Oh, that's an
Real-
MLS
yeah, yeah,
issue.
yeah, okay. So I just
Yeah.
didn't, so is that, because other markets have done that and did not know if.
yeah, that would, just up front like that, that to me would be an adverse commission letter that you sent to a broker to broker. You couldn't just do that.
Between agents or whatever.
Between
Yeah.
agents, you know, on the individual deal, I don't know, that starts to get a little.
I just thought it was
shaky.
interesting because we saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, could be.
Doesn't work, does it?
What's that? Yeah, it's
Shane
interesting.
knows.
So, yeah, so like Mike was saying and stuff, we have to make sure that when we're showing that we do share, this is what the seller is paying. So it would pay this portion, or it would pay all of it, or I get a bonus if you buy this house, however you want to handle that, that's fine. Doug,
All right.
one last question.
Last one.
Okay.
So I'm used to be curious as a broker. I'm sure as long as Barry or longer than.
No, Barry was in the business prior to me.
Having been through, rising rates and housing inventory
Yeah,
prices. Ralph has never seen this few houses.
Right, oh, yeah.
What in your experience, and that is the group of brokers, what is your forecast? If you have one for the next 12 months.
My personal forecast would be that there will be less buyers in the marketplace. We might get a bump of inventory. The scary part of that is that some builders are kind of pulling back a little bit. They're like, guys, we still need, a ton of houses. I mean, we're way short of what we need in the marketplace. But builders are just like anybody else. They're looking bottom line. They're like, shoot, if I can't guarantee this thing's going to go before I get it finished, I don't know if I'll build it. No, they're not willing to go back to that 4 specs and 3 others started time, because they're paying the same high interest rates that everybody else is to get their money. So there's all of that. So I think we'll have a little rise in inventory. I don't think we'll have any reduction in pricing. I think we'll have a reduction in price increases, the rising of prices. I think that will slow or even flatten. That in Des Moines, that was the other time there was a really bad time, not 2008, but before that. That was the worst thing that happened, is we had a flattening of pricing where it just stopped growing for almost 2 years. There are 2,000 houses. No, that you're way before my time. When I started in this business, it was normal to have somewhere, give or take, 5,500 homes on the market.
Well, but it's also not really the number of houses for sale, because we're still selling, like last year, we sold more than we did the year before, even though it feels like there's nothing to sell because the houses are selling so fast. So your active for sale inventory is significantly low compared to historical values, but the sold properties are higher. I mean, they may not be higher this year, but they have been. And, so that's.
What she's describing, speed of the market is the issue. And that's caused because of buyer demand. The Fed decided to raise interest rates to slow buyer demand. So the way they do that is they take the bottom part of the market and wipe it out, because when push comes to shove, they could care less about the struggling people trying to find housing. They just want to take care of the people who got lots of money, because guess who donates to the campaigns? Enough political.
But then you rent.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, that's slow, that's part of the thing that happens is when you cut the bottom part of the market, when you cut that off, it impedes the normal market flow, which is you sell this one, you buy or hire, you sell that one, you buy or hire. It impedes that flow as soon as you harm the beginning part of the marketplace. And that's what they're doing now, is harming that. The idea of slowing the market is not a bad one. I mean, it's stupid, it's unsustainable where we were, what we were doing. I mean, we had places that were getting 15, 18% appreciation in a year. That's ridiculous. We can't continue that. So they're having to slow. If we can get builders to continue to build some properties and we can get some resales on, and it's through sales skills that is going to get those listings on for resales. It has to be your sales skills and how you can get them into the marketplace. They want to sell. They want to sell and buy another house. They're scared to death. So we need to create a front end that's good for them. Like, all the pre-approved financing. There's companies, they're not here yet. There are companies where there are investors that will look at your credit score and valuations and like that, and then say, you know what, I got you. Go buy the house you want, and then we'll sell that one. And if that would happen, that would make a huge difference because we could go to people, and it's, again, there's a convenience fee associated with it, but they're willing to pay it because then it's like comfort. It's like the guaranteed buyout thing that it's gone on for so many Proctor. Great Proctor. That guaranteed buyout. That's who started it way back. And that's part of the process. And look, I'll buy your house no matter what. I'll go buy your other one. But the problem is that the financing on the other one was contingent upon that. So we have to get the front end. We have to start working on the front end of our market push. If we get some of those things solved by working with lenders and buyers, see, it makes no sense. Listen, if you've got buyers that have an 820 credit score, they have great investments. They maybe have a couple of rental properties. They've got their house is halfway paid for, and there's equity in it. And you have lenders right now saying, you know what, we just can't help you until you sell that other house. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And until we get our lenders, investors, those kind of people that will come to the surface and recognize the opportunity that's out there for them, when that happens, our market will change somewhat. That answer your question? Sort of?
So I know there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, it's a process. But I think we need to focus on being the best possible agents we can be for the clients that we're presented with, because that will sustain you. That's how we're going to stay in business as agents. We take care of our clients. We do the right things. We make good decisions. You're going to work your ass off, because when things slow down, you have to work harder. And it's hard to imagine, because you've been working so hard with buyers now. It's hard to imagine working harder, but it'll be a little bit different. And I would say the effort and time and process that you put into buyers right now, start putting into finding listings. That's going to be the most beneficial thing you can possibly do over the next 2-3 years, is find listings and take care of those people. They will keep you in business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I scrubbed one today.